I think the worse things are getting on a global basis, the more we're hearing about UFOs. And it's like, what is this thing with UFOs? Like, why is it that so many people are seeing stuff, but it's a big, big secret? And what do secrets do? It makes you question, makes you fear. Somebody's knowing something that you don't know. And it's just another brainwashing scam to manipulate you into believing something that isn't true. And if you really, really want to understand, what is the big, big picture, here's the thing. All of these really, really brilliant minds end up writing books about everything they know. And if you put enough hardship on somebody that kind of wants to solve their problems, they kind of read all of these books. And if you read everybody's books and you find out that, okay, some people are contradicting themselves. So then if you take out all of the contradictions and then see what kind of picture you see a completely different picture. And you see, some of the smartest brains on the planet aren't really all that smart at all. And I mean, here's one rule. Every time we think we know something, every time a scientist puts a rule out there that this is the way things are, somebody somebody has a driving force to prove it wrong. It's the challenge that as soon as somebody says this is one thing, then somebody is born on this planet that makes it a life mission to prove that concept is wrong. Now, it may take, 100 years or so before it's actually proven. Einstein, created how many beliefs? And, a lot of people are trying to disprove a lot of the things that he's come up with, but a lot of things are different than what we think they are. But we've designed our economic systems based on some of the rules that aren't necessarily true. If you do a lot more research, then you find out that what we know about biology is completely wrong. What we know about physics is completely wrong. But if we ended up telling the truth about, how wrong it is, that collapses the whole friggin' system. So things aren't exactly what we think they are. It's just we lose a lot of jobs, like the whole economic system would crash if we actually knew the truth, that some of these laws aren't necessarily as true. And we're getting this big wake-up call. Now let's just look at Stephen Hawking. There's just, a few little clues there. We've discovered this Mandelbrot set that says there's patterns in everything. And what's in the smallness of something is also going to be in the bigness of something. They're identical pictures. It's just one is really small and one is really big. Now, what does that mean? That means that what is in our quantum world, the cells inside your body, are exactly the same thing that's in the universal world. And if you look at the universe, it seems to be spinning. There's something big pieces of dust, big planets, big particles are spinning. And in the quantum world, that's the same thing. It's next to invisible. If you look at every cell, it's empty, but it seems to be spinning pieces of information, spinning pieces of something that's on the smallest level as the universal pieces that are spinning in there. And so what does that tell you? Everything starts from the smallness, and the only way you can see the smallness is by the reflection of the bigness. So we already know nothing, by that concept, there's nothing out there. There's nothing out in outer space. There's no more intelligent life in outer space because it's just the reflection of us. It's like looking into a mirror. If you want to see something out there, it's like, go look at a mirror and see what you see. In that mirror, you're going to see the bigness of you. you're going to see the body, the bigger aspect of every one of your cells put together. So we're starting to kind of see that if we put all of us humans together, we kind of look like something. But we're kind of got this ego thing that we're all separate, but we're not. We're all together. But we don't know how to go out of that fishbowl, out of our own universe, to take a look at ourselves. And just as we are separate from ourselves, there's other universes out there. There's other us's out there, but the only other out there is in a completely different universe. So, I mean, if we are going to be, studying, um, there is something out there. Yeah, it's it's like just as I have a neighbor, our universe has a neighbor. And you can trust without a doubt that neighbor is going to be exactly the same as us. They are in development the same as us. It's just sort of picture yourself as, your community. You have people in your community, but as a whole, you're all one. You all act as one community. Or every cell in your body, every organ in your body makes up the community of yourself. So that is the same thing going on, that there's a community of universes. And, you know, together we make something, but that's like, okay, you got to go outside of even the universes to see what all of these universes combined make. But if you think there's any answers out there, that's like them coming to us and seeing what kind of answers we got. And you know what? There's no friggin' way in hell you're going to get to that other universe. Like, that is the insanity, to think that life is about going from our universe to their universe and see what's there. That's like, your heart cell wanting to go and see your lung cell just to see what's there. It won't make any difference. It won't give you any answers to anything. What appears to be happening is we need to develop. We are immature beings right now. We're like little kids playing with fire. And, we just need to mature. We just need to learn from our mistakes. Stephen Hawking's, to show the brilliant of that guy's mind, he's saying, although he knows these sciences, he knows about the bigness and the smallness, he knows about the quantum world, he knows there's nothing out there, but what is he saying? He's saying that we as humans can't solve problems, so we need to, spend all our money and time on outer space. Because he thinks that we're going to destroy our planet. So basically what he's saying, we as destroyers who can't solve any problems need to go out into the bigness of ourselves and destroy even more. Doesn't make any sense. And on top of it, it's like he hasn't looked in a mirror in a long time. He hasn't seen the idea that he is a human, and he hasn't even seen that. What has he done all of his life? Pretty sure he solved a few problems. So he as a human has solved problems, so we don't need to go out into outer space. We just need to teach people how to be problem solvers. Or he's admitting that everything he did, he hasn't solved shit. So he might be recognizing that, okay, the rest of the world thinks I've solved problems, but I actually didn't. And that's just my way of admitting that, okay, I really know shit, but I get to sell a lot of books. And Stephen Hawking is also selling or studying black holes. That seems to be his major focus, is a black hole. Now, within the psychiatric community, there's some same similarities with black holes, in the bigness of our experience. And it is a sense of consciousness, because, in psychiatric world, it's a study of your your consciousness. You know, where are you headed? What are your beliefs? What do you want to go to? And the universal world is sort of somewhat the same thing. But a black hole has an event horizon. Every problem in psychology has an event horizon. And there is a lot of, you know, biology and all of your sciences of what direction you go into, what makes a healthy body, what makes a healthy decision. You know, all of the sciences are exactly the same that you're examining a black hole from. So what's a black hole? A black hole is nothing more than a problem. And every black hole apparently has a solution. They don't want to let you know that, but turns out that every problem is just a lacking piece of information. It's a lacking experience. It's an experience lacking information. Every time you solve the problem, didn't just a little bit more information make that problem go away? You know, the bigger the problem that you think is impossible to solve, all that's missing is some information. We just need a little bit more information to give to the problem, and then the problem will just go away. Um, and if that law is true, like any science, then it's got to be repeatable. It's got to be shown that example over and over again. And in order for you to even understand that law, first you got to say is you got to look at what you're going to test as it is a true law. So if that law is true, then if you go down a black hole, there is a solution. It's just a problem. You know, it's how you're going to handle yourself when you go into that problem. You know, like if you're going to be all stressed and fearful and all of that, it will rip you to shreds. You know, like every other problem, if you go into a problem with a big fear and fight and everything that causes your body as much stress as possible, it will kill you. It will create whatever disease that kills you because you didn't know how to handle the problem during the event horizon. So that same philosophy is true when you go into your own black hole. Every black hole is nothing but a problem. But it, you know, in our bigger universal world of things, it's how us as humans together through maturity, you know, do we want to handle going through this big black hole all stressed, all unknowing, you know, are we going to enjoy the ride? Are we going to trust that there's an answer at the other side? You know, Stephen Hawking's isn't quite getting it. Um, his illness would really open his eyes because there is a cure to his illness, but that would mean he would actually have to face his own solution, and I don't know if he's ready for that. But if you connect the dots with a lot of other scientists, that illness that he's dealing with is curable. He just doesn't want to search for that because he's stuck in his own black hole. Something to think about. Peace out.